Hey, it's time for another episode of The Rundown. I'm Sunny Galt. I'm a messenger with United Network News. UNN is the official news channel for CARE, which stands for the Center for Amity and Restoration of Earth. Amity meaning friendship, restoration meaning let's fix this place. Let's fix our home and make it the beautiful place that God/Source intended it to be. On our newscast, we discuss what we call the real news. And that's a newscast that is released through our online distribution platform at unitednetwork.tv. Our newscast comes out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So what do we mean when we say the real news? Because there's lots of news out there, right? And several years ago, Trump coined the term fake news, right? So I think we know what fake news is. But what's real news? Because we have not heard real news in a very long time. Pretty much everything that comes out of mainstream media's mouth or teleprompter, depending on how you want to look at it, as well as alternative media, is fake. It is fake because it is a narrative. It is a planned, staged narrative. And there's two different sides because you know you have to have a bad guy and a good guy. That's how you have conflict. And it doesn't matter if you're rooting for the quote-unquote good guy or rooting for the quote-unquote bad guy. As long as we are not united, they win. And so what we try to do is give you real information so you know what's happening on this planet and throughout the multiverse. Because things that are happening here on Earth are resonating everywhere in our universe/multiverse. And if you haven't heard the term multiverse before, that is the layers of density and all the spaces in between. So on this podcast, what we try to do is give you a snippet from our rundown from the newscast, give you some stories. We also give you highlights from our world situation report. And some of the stuff is just going to blow your mind. There is going to be stuff that we talk about today that if you are not familiar with our newscast, you're going to be like, is this some sort of science fiction novella kind of, what's going on here? Is this some sort of series and these people are acting out these parts? No, this is real life. I am telling you, ever since I started working for UNN, truth is stranger than fiction. It is insane what is happening on this planet. Now, they don't want people to know this, as conspiratorial as this sounds. They don't want people to know this because they want to maintain control. And the best slave is a slave that doesn't know they're a slave. They can't see the bars that are right up in front of them. So maybe you're listening to this today because you're like, you know what, something's off. I don't know what's going on out there, but nobody's really telling the truth. They're running the same stories over and over again. It's absolutely ridiculous. Why are we still talking about the 2020 election? Whether it was stolen or not. Come on. We are almost in 2024. Hello, people. That should tell you alone that this is staged. This is staged to separate us. So let's cut through all the crap here. Let's talk about what's really happening. And that's what we do here. And we share a portion of that here on our podcast. But with anything that we share, I encourage you guys, do your own research. Stop believing people just because they sound important or have a show. Even this podcast, fact checked us, with as much, information that's on the internet, do what you can to explore the topics that we talk about. Just don't believe it just because I say it or someone else from the news says it. Don't. That's what got us into this mess. We have something called discernment. I talk about it a lot. Use your discernment. It is your built-in lie detector for your body of what's real and what's not, because we are living in a day and age where good is called bad and bad is called good. And how are we supposed to know? And we've got deep fakes here and, holographic images, here, CGI, the whole bit. Clones. Well, we don't really have clones anymore, but we got people walking around in masks. Okay. And clones were a real thing as well. So seriously, this is like a science fiction book, except it's not fiction. It's real. So let's go ahead and dive into this. Here's the rundown for Monday, December 11th, 2023. let's talk about our amazing field messengers. So this is how our newscast typically kicks off. We have a couple of field messenger reports, and field messengers are just like you. You know, they see that the world is off. They want people to know what's really happening in their area. So they take out their smartphone and they tell us. They have zero reporting experience unless they've done a previous field messenger report before. And the technology is pretty simple too, right? They can also call their loved ones on it. So we keep it pretty simple here. But it's what you guys are telling us that's important. It is firsthand information without all the bias and all the other agendas and narratives behind it. Now, if you want more information about our Field Messenger program, you can go to unitednetwork.news. And in the main navigation, there is a section for field messengers, and we've got some more information there for you. So I've got 2 stories that I want to share with you, and some of these stories, they really do require you to see the video behind it to really get the full effect, but I'm going to give it my best. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the stories. So the first one has to do with Cairo, Egypt, and we have a field messenger there. Her name is Rebecca. And she's talking about the construction that she sees when she goes from the outskirts of being right outside the city into the heart of Cairo. And she says, and she shows us in her video, there are tons of new apartments and buildings being constructed outside of the city. And she just started recording, and she was driving in her car, and it seems to go on forever and ever. Now, no one lives inside. And even though some buildings have like the carve out for windows, there's no glass, for the windows, there's no lights. No one could possibly be living in these buildings, at least comfortably, unless there's some squatters or something like that. So no one's living inside. But this is part of a transition that Cairo is planning, and I guess they've been working on this since 2000, to build a new Cairo, which is a city outside of the original Cairo. And the reason they're doing this is because they've had a lot of problems with traffic and congestion and even air pollution, things like that. And if you go to Old Cairo, if you've ever been there, and I was actually there, this is many, many years ago. It was probably the early 2000s when I was there. And I remember going into downtown Cairo and just feeling like the smog, and everyone felt like they were kind of stacked upon each other. And that's exactly what Rebecca points out in this video. But her main part of the story is, holy cow, they've got all of this construction going on, and everything kind of seems to be at a similar stage. It's like, I don't know if they ran out of money. I don't know what's going on over there, but she was just pointing out all this construction, and nothing's really complete. So I don't know when they were planning on finishing this new Cairo, but they're going to need a little bit more time. Let's put it that way. And our next field messenger report is from Jo in Australia, and she reports from the New South Wales section of Australia. She's talking about homeschooling, and I love people that think outside the box when it comes to homeschooling, because we know that our school system is controlled. We know it was there to fit a very specific agenda and pretty much just keep pumping out slaves. That's what the whole program was for. And, I've got all 4 of my kids are in public schools still. Now, I'm trying to get them out. It's sometimes easier said than done. But I love it when people look at the schooling system and they go, you know what? I think there's a better option. And that's exactly what this couple did. So, again, in Australia, they were looking for different homeschooling options, and they were moving around a little bit. They ended up finding some parents and kids that wanted to do something different with homeschooling as well, but they didn't have a place to congregate, right? They didn't have a place to really meet and have, homeschooling for a small group, if you will. And so they ended up using this couple's property, and it's just really cool what they've been able to do. So they teach different things. It's more like life skills. I always wondered, growing up in the public school system, why the school didn't teach basic life skills. It made no sense to me. And obviously other people have thought of this as well, like this couple. So they talk about things like, how do we create fresh water? How do we keep cool when the sun's really hot during the day? Like, this may seem like simple stuff, But most of it is not taught. And this is really important stuff for humanity to know, right? And they've been using the couple's property. In fact, they have a couple of domes on the property, and it looks kind of like it's a dome, but it looks like more like a temporary structure. And apparently now they have kids ages 6 to 12 that are part of this program. But one of the really neat things about it is that all the parents are very active in the learning. And it just so happens that a lot of the parents have, quite amazing skill sets of their own. And so they rotate coming in and teaching the kids different things that they know, which is a great way to learn, right? Just learn from other people, of course. And it's things that they're passionate about. So that has a tendency to rub off, right? When you're teaching people something that you're really interested in. And they also incorporate things like animals and good nutrition. And when you combine all of this together, you have a pretty cool homeschooling learning environment. Our next segment on the news, we call the New Earth. And that's because we don't want you guys just thinking about what is happening right now on our planet, but we need to start thinking further out. So I kind of view this as an educational segment on the show to really talk about what is this new Earth that we're creating and how can we be proactive? What can we expect? What are things that we can start doing now to fully embrace where our planet is going? And so we've got a few stories today. I interviewed Seth Dietlin, and he is an angel channeler and hypnotherapist. And today we're talking about how can we use our intuition in the new earth? And how are things going to be different because this intuition we have, which is sometimes referred to nowadays as your sixth sense. I think we have a lot more senses than that. And then we have people on this planet that make no sense. I guess it's just the nature of our planet right now, right? But what I love that Seth did in this interview is he told this story. And this is something that I think most people that are listening to this can resonate with. And that is looking for a new job. He tells the story of how he was able to use his intuition to not only find a job, because you know how hectic that can be, and you got to update your resume, and then you're reaching out to multiple people and maybe reaching out to friends and posting at different places and looking for, different job sites. And it's kind of a nightmare. That's why a lot of people just stay at their job, is they can't even, they don't want to go through that whole process. But Seth tells the story of basically using his own intuition and knowing exactly who to reach out to and making the whole getting a job process super simple. And just knowing what to do and who to contact and what to do next and what to say. But it was all based on tapping into information that his body already knew. Because most of the time we have the answers within us already. We are constantly looking outside for answers, which is really sad because that complicates so much. Like when you're, trying to get a job. But if you just listen to your body, listen to, if you want to call it your higher self or whatever, what is it that you need? And what is it that you need to do to get there? And I guarantee your body will start to tell you these things, and that is your intuition. And Seth got a job just like that. So anyways, that's just one example of how we can use our intuition in the new earth. And we talk about other things as well. So I encourage you guys to check out that interview. We did a few stories that I think were really interesting. The first one is called If Plants Could Sing. Now, newsflash, and I'll, do a little spoiler here. Yes, they can sing. Using biofeedback technology and handheld devices, we can actually hear what plants are saying. And this is how it works. You can take 2 electrodes and you can attach it to the plant, to the leaf, maybe to 2 different leaves, or sometimes near the root will help as well. And then there is software that monitors the plant's electrical signals and then transforms it into sound. And here's the amazing thing. The plant's tune may change based on external factors. Like if you touch it, if you water it, it may get more may vibrate higher and have a higher frequency and may sound a little bit different if there's movement around it. So this is like a communication device. Have you ever wondered what your plants are thinking? Do you have enough water? Do you have enough sun? What's going on over there? Well, if you were to hook up this device to it, which doesn't hurt the plant, you could tell if it was a very slow, sound. You would know that maybe it needs a little bit more help. In the example that we showed on the news, there was a video and it was hooked up to a dead plant. I think we showed it on the news. If not, it's online. And it made no sound. And then immediately when you take it to a plant that's live, then you hear this beautiful symphony of music. So it's fascinating, right? And now we've got this technology to be able to show us how to do it. So awesome stuff. Next, we have a story about an incredible eco-village in the Netherlands. It is called Eco-Village Bukal, and it was named the most sustainable city back in 2021. It has 36 customizable flats, and this is where it really helps to have some video, I know. I'm still gonna give my best explanation to you guys. It's made of wood and hemp, right? So those are more sustainable materials. The houses absorb more carbon than they emit. In fact, they even have what they call a food forest where food grows amongst the tree and shrubs. So everything's very natural, right? So encourage you to check that out. Eco-Village Bukal, if you want to look that up. And then finally, we have a story about blue zones. Have you heard of blue zones before? I had not prior to this story. So this was about a National Geographic explorer and author, and he's done a lot of research on longevity and healthy aging. And he identified different blue zones where people live really long lives. So, of course, if you found this out, you'd be like, well, what's different about them, right? Well, what he found is that the cultural roots of these different places were very, very different, but their lifestyle traits were similar. So now you want to know what their lifestyle traits are, right? So they got regular physical exercise. They had strong family/community ties. They had an active social life. They practiced some sort of meditation or some sort of spiritual practice. They ate mainly plant-based, but definitely an organic diet. So I believe it said that it also mixed in some fish. So, mainly plant-based. And there were a couple places that he found, and classified these areas as blue zones. So let me list these for you. Loma Linda, California. Sardinia, Italy. Nicoya, Costa Rica. Ikaria, Greece. And Okinawa, Japan. So now you want to look up those places, right? But it just goes to show you, this isn't rocket science. It's stuff that we kind of already knew, but these people are living well into their hundreds. So makes you kind of think maybe we should be adapting some of these things that are making their communities and their lives very strong. And now it's time for our regional stories. So when we talk about the news, some of these stories you may have heard on other media outlets, but we always take the perspective of the people. We are not interested in what the so-called governments are doing or the non-governmental organizations and all their little puppets and what they have to say. We cut those people out of the news a while ago. But we still report on things that are impacting the people and, as much as possible, bring up things that we know need to be restored on this planet because we are in a period of restoration now. We were in a dark age for a very long period of time. We have moved into a light age, and in this light age, we are restoring our planet. So we bring up some stories that, at least I tried to bring up some stories that make us think. Do we want to change this? What's going on our planet now that needs fixed? So I have a few stories I want to share with you guys today. First has to do with Sri Lanka. They had a pretty big power outage. It lasted for several hours, and it was traced to a system failure in a major transmission line. And honestly, this is just the poor people, the poor Sri Lankans, because They have been living in poor conditions. The people are already dealing with an economic crisis that stems from 2022. And this all has to do with heavy reliance on hydropower, which is a challenge for them during the dry season. And it's kind of like just poor planning. So the nation has endured daily power cuts for months over the last year. And the government has also tried to raise electricity rates, imposing heavy fines and all of this. And the people have just had it, right? So this was the latest power outage. Obviously, there are people in power, no pun intended, that want to keep control over the power supply. They want to keep you on the grid. That is a form of control. For a very long time, we have had the ability to produce free energy to allow people to move all over our beautiful planet and live in different areas. But, when something gets introduced, then, people are sued or whatever. This information never gets out. Now, we're in the process, and we've talked about this on the news, of introducing and going into production on neutrino boxes. These are smaller boxes, like I believe you can just, carry it in your hands. It's not, super heavy, but it is based on the neutrino energy that comes from the sun. So this is not solar, okay? There's a difference. But these neutrinos can actually power your house for 50 years, an average size house. And you are not on the grid. So this is incredible technology, but can you imagine the shakeup that is going to happen in the very, very near future when these neutrino boxes make it out to the people? And that's really what Sri Lanka needs, right? It needs to have its own power supply. They have to get off the grid. It is a mess. So that is definitely an area for restoration. Our next story has to do with China and the beauty market over there. So if you didn't know, China is the second largest beauty market in the world, and they are seeing their sales hit a steep decline. In fact, they say consumers are spending pretty much just on what they view as essential skincare, not extra stuff, not a lot of makeup and things like that may be considered extra, but just the basics. And this is impacting global firms, names that that you see in the store all the time, like L'Oreal, Estee Lauder, LVMH. These stores and conglomerates, global, right, are banking on China's $52 billion beauty market for growth. And they kind of bet on the wrong horse because it's going down, right? Now, they claim that the issue is that large companies are unable to quickly adjust to the consumer priorities. So let's say consumers kind of change their mind about something and, they didn't quite predict the latest and greatest in whatever makeup, right? Well, if they can't pivot and produce what the consumers want, that's a big problem. Smaller companies and local companies might be able to do that a little bit better. And that's what the whole story was about, is this is actually helping the smaller companies that can pivot and really respond to their consumers in a, faster way. But the other thing that I was thinking about with this article is like, they claim this is like a result of companies not doing something. What about the fact that our economies are declining and there's less disposable income? I mean, that has to have a big impact. I mean, everyone wants to look and feel beautiful, but, I'm not going to go out and buy hundreds of dollars in cosmetics if I, need to put food on the table. So that's definitely another factor. And our final story that we're going to review, at least on today's podcast, is about disability workers in the United States. And we want to draw attention to the fact that there is still a huge wage gap. This continues with workers who are considered disabled. Workers with disabilities earn 42% less than people without a disability. Now, that's a problem, right? That is the largest pay gap within a decade. So it seems to be getting worse. But here's the interesting thing. Employment rates for workers with disabilities has increased. So they're getting more people working, but they're paying them less. To me, this sounds like optics. Let's virtue signal and show everyone what good companies we are by bringing on, these different types of workers. But at the same time, what we're not going to tell people is what we're paying them. Yeah, that's a problem. And now it is time for our World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian. So we did not have a podcast on Friday because Kim was not on the news on Friday. We did not have a World Situation Report. And for those of you who might be new to this podcast, that's when I do these episodes because I like to include sound bites from the sit rep. So if we don't have it, I can't include the sound bites. So Kim was on the news today, and she needed to kind of get us up to speed because there's been a lot that's been going on. Now, starting at sundown on Thursday was, I guess, we're still in it, but it's Hanukkah. So we are right in the middle of Hanukkah now. It started, like I said, sundown on Thursday, or like if you look at your calendar here in the U.S., it may just say Friday, but technically sundown on Thursday. And the reason we're bringing this up is because that holiday is kind of being abused right now. There are people that are legitimately celebrating it and spending time with their loved ones. And then there are crazy deep state people that are thinking that they are somehow going to regain control of the planet and of the financial system simply because of this holiday. And something they believe happened about 5 years ago. Here's Kim.
So Solomon was a guardian at one point in time. He is also, the celebration of Hanukkah is the building of the second temple, amongst other things, Festival of Light and all of these types of things. But Solomon's temple is well known. It's all over the internet. People are looking for Solomon's temple. But they don't really understand the story behind it. So I'm not going to get too in detail because there's a lot of good information out there about Solomon's temple, the line of Solomon. But the line of Solomon is actually what we call the Order of the Dragon here. Okay. So the Order of the Dragon is your, Blue Dragon, Rothschild, so on and so forth all around the world. And about 4 years or so after Solomon fell from God's grace, and he chose anti-source, so to speak, that birthed the Luciferian movement. And then 4 years later came the Order of the Dragon. Now, the Order of the Black Sun is debatable as to whether or not it existed even before this time. So Solomon had a covenant with Source, an anti-source, that he would remain guardian in his line, obviously, his bloodline, would remain guardian for 3,000 years. And that time expired at the end of Hanukkah in 2018. But they were told, it's written in the ancient manuscripts, that they had a 5-year extension. And they were granted this alleged 5-year extension to a covenant by Marduk. Okay. Now, this was a lie. Because if you make a covenant with God or with Source, only Source itself can renew that covenant or give you an extension. Right. And that extension was not granted by the original covenant holders. Yeah. So that 5 years brings us to now, Hanukkah of 2023. Yeah. And there was another covenant that happened at the same time between the Order of the Black Sun and the Order of the Dragon. So they both sides believed that they had until the 15th, which is the end of Hanukkah, to get it done, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. So by the 8th, which was the day after the first night of Hanukkah, They were hacking like crazy. The legions went into full swing because they were causing all kinds of problems everywhere. They were not adhering to the expiration of the covenant, clearly, and nobody really knew why on Friday. That's why I wasn't here Friday, because it was just, I couldn't figure it out myself. I'm like, why all of a sudden are they going crazy, killing people, doing all kinds of stuff? I mean, trying to submit agreement after agreement after agreement to the Hall of Records. And, of course, none of them were approved and all of them were sent back denied. And I'm like, what is is it a full moon? No, it's not a new moon. There's no alignment happening right now. What the heck is going on? And it turned out this was the reason why. They felt that this is their time in order to get a renewal of a covenant that expired 5 years ago, based on a lie told to them by Marduk. Because Marduk never lied, of course not.
What's the benefit? Like, why would Marduk do that? Didn't he know that he can't lie about this kind of stuff? It will catch up to you?
Well, it all had to do with the creation. There was a partnership between Marduk and the humans of the future, so to speak, and the synthetic creation of the primordial lurker, which was also not a source thing.
Right.
So I'm guessing they thought that the primordial lurker could then overshadow source and anti-source by this time, and that he would come out clean. He just need to keep it going for a few more years based on past and future being able to see both. And maybe he thought that was it. That was the reason.
Not thought it would get that far, because if the humans from the future took over, then he would be kind of out of the picture. Do you know what I mean? Like, if all that happened, it would be because he wasn't in charge anymore.
Well, Marduk was a deal maker. He made all kinds of deals. Right. So, they were partners. They were going to split the spoils. Remember the creation of New Earth in the lower astral, and which was also done by Marduk. The sinking of Jupiter's original moon, Europa, which was very Earth-like, down to the lower astral and trying to terraform it. And then they were going to relocate all us humans down there. Remember this months ago? So there was a whole bigger picture here behind it that's just not there anymore. Okay. But what I did is I said, well, I can clearly see that they're looking for this stuff. And everything is a strategy. People are talking about Trump, and I'll get into all that kind of stuff too. But this is a strategy on my part, and some of it I will leak out to you so that you can understand how this works. And they also need to understand how it works. So they are looking for signs in quantum computing and in other ways to indicate that the primordial lurker is doing his thing. He's going to give them access back. They're going to renew the contract with the new, quote unquote, artificial sources, plural, both source and anti-source. So I thought I would throw them a bone. Everything is a strategy, and timing is always critical. So by Saturday, they thought that they saw something coming back. Some fake money being shown, some alleged almost lines into the financial system, and those types of things, which they weren't actually in the financial system. They were kind of on the outer perimeter and on spaces in between, and it couldn't actually touch the financial system, but it was enough to make them think. They were high-fiving. They were all excited. They're back in. So then I began running some test transfers. So they saw that they have an alleged in, and they threw the book at me about 40, 50 times over the weekend. Okay. Now, what does this do strategy-wise? So this is about winning the game. And it's not a game. This is the game for life This has nothing to do, in their mind, it has to do with control of Earth. In our mind, it has to do with the entire universe and the changeover of the age. And we have a couple of non-repairable humans in the way.
Right.
So the reason why I created a fake lurker-like line was to get them to throw the book at me. That was on purpose, because I need to get rid of, at a faster pace here, everything they've got left. Everything. Because we can't have them trying to do this ID 2020. We can't have them trying to do digital currencies and Agenda 2030, where we all die, and all of these types of things. We can't have this anymore. So, number one, it allowed us to identify who is still on the program. Even after watching the movie last weekend, even not this past weekend, the weekend before, even after being visited by the legions, even after everything that's happened, they still are on the program. Mm-hmm. And this also ties into why there was no Trump announcement too, but we'll get into that. So if I get them to throw the book at me, everything they got left, then I win faster. If they don't take the bait and the money goes through, we still win, because it's all about dropping $1 to a human being. So this is a win-win situation and a strategy that has to take place.
So when Kim says this is all about dropping $1 to a human being, I feel like I need to explain this a little bit, especially for those of you who might be new. We have never been given the real information about how our financial system is structured here on this planet. We have been given a load of you-know-what. But the truth behind it is that money never went directly to the people. It went to governments, it went to non-governmental organizations, it went to the military, it went to different places, it went to the treasury, but it never went directly to the people. The system is not set up to do that. And in fact, there have been so many things preventing that from happening, because when that happens, because it will happen here in the very near future, then the deep state has completely lost control, because they wanted everything siphoned through their systems. So you have to work for their companies, and you have to spend your money in this way in order, you know what I mean? I mean, everything was controlled. This is part of the slavery system. So Kim and her team have been trying to take out these things that are hindering the global repository, which is how money gets into the system, to enable money to go out from the global repository directly into your checking account. So we can do projects and things like that to restore our planet. So when she's talking about, listen, $1 just needs to go to a human, that is what's being discussed. So I just wanted to explain that for those of you who haven't been listening for a while and you're like, what is this all about? So it's kind of crazy, right? How they're using Hanukkah and everything I feel like on this planet is just a huge distortion of the truth. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, it can get really frustrating. So let's talk about something good. Okay. So the next soundbite that I want to play for you is some good news that Kim has. Now, this has to do with Christmas. Now, as I just said, everything on this planet is a sick version of the truth, right? We never get the full truth here, and including Christmas. It doesn't matter what religion you are. The things that they tell us happen on Christmas Day didn't really happen on Christmas Day. But we have also been told this other story about paganism, right? And some people don't want to celebrate Christmas. Good Christians don't want to celebrate Christmas. And I used to be one of those people because of the paganism. And you don't want to be associated with paganism, right? But that's also kind of a front, because there's always truth, some layer of truth behind their lies. And what Kim explains is that during this time, leading up to Christmas for 2 weeks, we would get this incredible burst of crystalline energy. Now, There's nothing stopping that from coming directly to us, directly to our planet, which means amazing things can happen, but we have to embrace this. So here's Kim telling us more about this crystalline energy that's headed our way.
So Christmas Day has been perverted over the years, and we knew its origins, if you look at the internet, to be of paganism. And that's the belief. And that's what they want you to believe. And for a time, I would say it wasn't a lie. Mm-hmm. Now, the birth of Christ or Crystalline or Christ energy, was what used to happen during a neutral age. Once we went into the dark ages, then everything went bad. Mm-hmm. So every year around that time, we would get a burst for 2 weeks leading up to Christmas, which means today. So starting today, we don't have interference from the lurker, and we don't have interference from a lot of other things that we've done, taken out over the last year or so. We are starting to receive this energy. Now, this is why it's positive for us. Number one, two forms of energy cannot occupy the same space at the same time, which means that this is the same energy. This is energy directly from source, which means that source can actually be the only other one to take out those dark energies that could be here remaining. Okay. Also, starting on Saturday afternoon my time, so early Sunday morning over in Australia, in Asia, we started to receive what's called a whiteout. And a whiteout is where we get like a tidal wave of light essence, light plasma, light energy directly from source. So it already started rolling in at that time. It just won't start hitting this density that we live in, the space we occupy, until today. So probably by this afternoon, we will start receiving that direct energy from source. Mm. So we should see things getting better starting today. But you have a responsibility and a part to play in this too. So bringing in that energy, calling it in, pulling it in, anchoring it here is very important, because these other people are trying to create mud. Yeah. Now, let me tell you how they create mud. Number one, the war. Okay, that's obvious. Everybody's very concerned. But there are only two things that control energy at the base root of everything you do. One is fear, and one is love. And you can choose one or the other. By choosing love and acting in every single thing you do out of love. That could be as simple as I brush my teeth because I love the teeth that I have, and I'm thankful for the gift that I have teeth, and therefore I'm going to brush my teeth out of love for myself. This is self-love and love for others, and just consciously think of everything you're doing in a day. Don't run out of the house in fear that you're going to be late. Don't act towards other people out of fear. Don't do things out of fear. I'm going to wash my hands 100 times a day because I am afraid I'm going to get a virus that's going around. Don't do it out of fear. Do it consciously out of love for yourself and for your family. You don't want your family getting sick either. So do things out of love and consciously change the way that you do things, especially for the next 2 weeks, because that is going to help bring that energy to you and to this planet and throughout the multiverse. because what happens here happens everywhere else.
So this is our opportunity, guys. I know so many times we talk about things that are happening on this planet, and it's like, I want to get involved. I want to do something, like put me in the game, coach. Well, now is your opportunity. We have, for the next couple of weeks leading up to Christmas, which, don't you just love that? I mean, it just makes me love Christmas even more. We have this amazing crystalline energy coming straight from Source, straight from God. And it's very powerful. And we are very powerful when we use these types of gifts that we've been given. So we have to focus on love. Like Kim said, like everything you do, focus on love. It may seem ridiculous and mundane and stupid. You know, you're brushing your teeth and you want to brush your teeth because, you know, you love your teeth and your teeth help you eat and, you know, helped you eat that yummy pizza last night or whatever. I mean, as long as you're feeling the emotion of love, it doesn't matter. But be grateful. And show that love, express that love in as many ways as you possibly can. That needs to be our job for the next 2 weeks. I mean, we should always be doing this, right? But I mean, really amplify this. I mean, again, we're always saying we're on the sidelines and we can't do anything. This is something we can do. So take advantage of this opportunity. I feel like it's Source saying, hey guys, you want to come in for the big finale? Come on, everybody pile on. We're going to defeat the deep state, the dark, all together. So this is your opportunity. I really appreciate you guys listening to today's show. I know some of the concepts out there, if you're brand new, seem a little woo-woo. That is okay. If you're one of those people, keep checking in with us. Keep thinking critically. Don't just believe people out there. You know, I mean, again, it's what got us into this mess. We have to be critical thinkers. We have to be using our own discernment. And if what I said today and what Kim shared today, if that resonates with you, then please share this podcast with people you care about, because we want other people to know the truth as well. For more information, you can go to unitednetwork.tv. You can get a subscription if you want, and that gives you on-demand access to all UNN newscasts. You get the complete World Situation Report, original series that we produce, as well as amazing health and wellness videos. And if you want to connect with us, you can do so on Telegram at unitednetwork.news/connect. That link literally has every other Telegram, website, whatever link you're looking for, it's all there. This is The Rundown, and I'm Sunny Galt for United Network News, signing off.